Hi guys, it's Kim, and today I'm going to be talking about scrying. Some of you were asking me about this topic, so I figured I'd go ahead and tackle it. Now, there are different methods of scrying. There's different ways you can scry. Basically, what we're talking about here is using some kind of reflective material to look at in order to receive some kind of image. And a lot of times it is a visual image, but sometimes it's more than that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can look at a mirror, a crystal ball, or other kind of gemstone. Water is also good for scrying. So it goes back many, many years, hundreds, thousands of years people have been scrying. I mean, even Nostradamus, he used to scry looking at water. I also, just clear bowl of water. I also read that he would scry looking into black ink. I'm not sure which is true. So it's basically a form of clairvoyance and looking at something in order to receive some kind of message. I have had some experiences with scrying in terms of being successful, many more times not being successful. It means something that you really need to work on and practice. And actually, the times that I was very successful with my scrying practice, I wasn't really trying. It just kind of happened, and then I realized I was scrying. So I was like, how do I tap back into that? So I'm going to share with you some of these experiences, and I think I've even talked about it. One time I was scrying looking into water, and I have a video about this, and I was looking at a pond of water, and I saw all kinds of white animals coming at me. So it was very, very very connected to animals. There was something with animal spirits, and I never really quite figured out what it was. So that was one time. Another time, I just happened to, I was doing a reading on somebody. So I was in a very, this is the place you want to be in, by the way. I was in a very trance-like state doing a reading on somebody. I'm just kind of touching my balls here. I'm touching my balls. So if you see me, like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm playing with. But I was doing a reading, and I just happened to look up and stare at my television. And I have not a very large TV, but I do have a flat screen TV with the black screen, and it was off. And when I looked over at it, I immediately saw a whole scene take place inside the TV. And no, the TV was off, okay? It wasn't on. And I didn't see it in my mind. I saw it with my physical eyes. And many of you have heard this story, how I saw Bonnie and Clyde. And I talk about this in other videos too. But I'm saying, like, that was scrying, like looking at that reflective surface, that television, and seeing this whole scene, the whole Bonnie and Clyde, the day that they died, going down some back road in, the old car. I mean, I knew nothing about Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, I had no reason to see that. So I was definitely scrying. So you can do that. You can look at, in water. You can look at some kind of black, shiny kind of object. Like I said, my TV, it works great. I mean, I didn't even need anything, just that TV, that reflective thing. I also one time was looking at my aura. It's happened to me several times, actually. I was looking at my aura in the mirror, and I do have a video on that. It's one of my very first videos when I first started making videos on YouTube. I was so horrified by the experience that I made a video about it. So if you're going to be scrying, especially into mirrors, remember, many believe that mirrors are like portals and stuff. So I'd be really careful. And I'm not even going to talk about scrying into mirrors, because to me it was not the most pleasant experience, and I don't want to talk about something or teach about something that I had a bad experience from. I can only say that it was scary to me, very, very scary. So I recommend that if you're going to scry, I recommend you try something, maybe that you're not looking at yourself. Maybe that you're looking into a sphere, or a bowl of water, or even, if you have a lake or a little pond or something like that, you might want to try that first before looking at yourself. I found it kind of scary looking at myself and seeing, I don't know what I was seeing, whether it was past lives, other lives, just the energy around me. Like, oh my gosh, like that was right by me, what I was seeing. And so it really freaked me out, but that's just me. So if you're going to try any of this, first and foremost, make sure that you are cleansed. All right. Sage yourself, whatever, however protection method you use. You want to cleanse your aura, cleanse your space, protect yourself. Put up a shield, because you got to remember, whenever you're doing anything like this, you're opening up doorways. You know, you're not just peeking in, you're literally opening the door and saying, come on in. So you want to make sure that you are ready to go. All right, so I have a whole series on protection and, spiritual protection and cleansing. So you're going to want to check that out before you try any kind of scrying, please, because you're opening yourself up here. Let me just talk about like different things that you can use. You can go ahead and you can use something like a TV if you have the nice flat screen. You can use a bowl of water. Like I said, some people like to use black ink. You can do that too. You might see differently. Some people see better in dark and some people see better in clear or light. So you might want to try different things. So if you're not successful in one, try another. All right, so you can do that. You can do the TV, you can do the water, you can do ink, you could do the mirror, but I'm not going into that. You can use a crystal ball. Now, this is from Shauna. I love my ball. All right, many of you have seen this on Facebook. You've seen my ball, and you know that there's like some like creature in here. There's we all feel there's something in here, several. So you can use a ball. They say the more clear, the better. All right, this one is not completely clear, but it is a really nice one. I love it. And this one is pure quartz. Or you can use like something like this. This is reconstituted quartz. And it is quartz, but it's like melted, smushed up, and put back together. And it's clear as a bell, like crystal clear. All right. And then they even have like lead balls that they're not quartz. You can use those and they're completely clear as well. I don't particularly like them, but some people do like to use them. They're actually called scrying balls. You can use those. Another thing you can use is, oh, here it is. You can use something like this. This is shungite. You can use shungite. Look how reflective that is. But you can also get it in black obsidian if you wanted that. Black obsidian's a little bit even like more shiny. So you can try that. Now, do you have to use a ball? No, you don't have to use the ball. But there's something about this spheres because it's like continuous energy, like beginning end, you know, it's ever flowing. There's no like corners or ridges. If you're trying to scry into something like a crystal point, you know, the energy's going in one direction. This is carved, you know, it's harder to see. It's a lot harder to see. So I recommend, if you're going to do this, that you try with a ball or just a bowl of water, like I said. So if you're going to use crystals, I would go with a clear quartz or reconstituted quartz or a black obsidian. Okay, that's what I would start with. Or if you want to use a bowl of water, that's great too. I'm telling you, I had an amazing experience just looking into a pond or a river, whatever it was. It's kind of like you're looking at it. I was looking at it and then it just became completely pieces. Like pieces is the only thing I can think of, like particles. Like I actually saw the particles. Like I felt like I would just walk through and fall through, and yes, it's water, I would fall in, but I felt like I would just like kind of fall in, like, and go like not into the earth, you know, like just particles. Like I could just go through it all, if that makes any sense. Like static, you know. And then after that happened, after I started to see all that, that's when I started to see all the animals. So you really want to get into that zone, whatever brings you to that place, that daydreaming, dreamy place. Okay, now if you're using, let's say you want to use a bowl of water, because you can certainly do that. If you want to just use a bowl of water, use one that's either black or dark. You can even do like a dark blue. No stripes or polka dots or anything like that. Do something that's natural. I wouldn't go with like a plastic. I would do something more natural. A nice ceramic bowl. Something along those lines. And what you could do is you could place clear quartz in the water to, you know, amp up the energy in the water, and also to program the water. You can also program your water and say, show me whatever it is that I need to see that's going to help me with whatever problem I'm having or something like that. You can program the water, you can program the quartz. So there's all different ways you can play with that. So when you're working with your balls, you want to make sure that they are on something, not where it's busy. So like, see all the colors behind me and how pretty that is? It would be very distracting to have like a colored tablecloth. So I mean, if you have it like sitting on your stand, and you have a colored tablecloth underneath, it's going to be hard. You're going to actually see that colored tablecloth with the little butterflies or whatever, and it's going to like mess up what you're seeing. So you want to have a very plain backdrop. And what I'll do is I'll just take a little table and I'll put a cloth, whether it's white or black, depending. For me, it's black. So I will take my ball and I'll put it on black, and I'll make sure it's surrounded. I'll have the ball so it's got the black background and also underneath it. You want to make sure that you have a nice solid thing around it. If that makes any sense, because when you're looking through, you don't want to see what's behind it. You don't want to see the couch behind it or whatever. We want to make sure you have a backdrop. A really good idea, and I have one of these. I forgot to bring it. With me. A trifold board is a really good one. Those boards that close, right? And you can even get a small one about this big. You can get them in black, whatever color you want, or white. They're trifold. So you can set up a little trifold around your ball. So that way the back is covered and the sides are covered, and then you have like a white or black tablecloth or whatever underneath it. Do you know what I'm saying? That way you have a really good scrying area. And I've done that as well. I do that from when I'm taking pictures. It helps me take pictures of the crystals. All right, so you want to make sure you have a good backdrop. You also want to make sure everything's cleansed. I talked about cleansing yourself. You want to cleanse your space, yourself, and also your crystal. So if you are scrying with crystals, you want to make sure they're all cleansed or retuned with sound, with sage, however it is that you cleanse and retune your crystals. All right, so one thing that I've discovered in every single instance, except for the time that I was looking at the water, that was the only time, but you'll see me a lot of times on Facebook say, all right, I'll be back later to do readings. I do better at night. I do a lot better. There's something about night. Once it starts to, get darker, I see energy better. I sense everything a lot better. That's just me. So you might want to consider that. You might see better at 6 or 7 o'clock. Not when it's dark. When you're scrying, you don't want it to be pitch black, but a little bit of light. So dusk is usually a good time when it's like dusky, little bit dark, or in a dimmed room, a dimly lit room. And it's also a good idea to have a candle or some kind of small light source and not directing on it. Like you don't want to have a light bulb shining down on your crystal, because then you're going to have that light on the crystal, but just around so you have that little glow. All right, so that's kind of setting your environment. You can put on music if you want, light incense, candles, whatever makes you get in the mood, because you really want to be in that happy place. It's actually in the zone, however you get in that zone. That's really important. And then you're going to look at your crystal ball. I do want to say that one thing that I do before I do readings or scrying or anything like that is I do rub my third eye in a clockwise motion. Do I go clockwise or counter? I go clockwise. Yes. I was just trying to figure out how I do it. I go clockwise, and or sometimes I'll put essential oil like a lavender or something like that, and I'll put it on my third eye and I'll rub it. It's kind of like kind of getting it ready, kind of paving the way here. I open it up. And then, you set up your ball and everything like that. All right, so when you're looking at your crystal ball, when you first start looking at it, you're going to see all the different nooks and crannies and cool things that are in your ball. And it might take time. quite possible you're not going to see anything or nothing's going to happen the first, 2 dozen times that you try. You really got to practice. When you first start doing this, you're going to see all the different things. If you have a ball like this, you're going to go, oh, wow, I didn't even know. Oh, there's a rainbow in there, You start seeing all the inclusions, the planes. This one, when you look at it, it's like you're looking in a whole different world. It's really cool. So take the time to do that. The first couple times you look in your ball, that's probably what you're going to be doing. It's just looking at the physical characteristics of it. But really look deep into it. And then over time, I wouldn't spend more than, it really depends on you, but I mean, I wouldn't spend more than 5 or 10 minutes the first couple times because it really can hurt your eyes. I do have a video on how to see auras or how to see auras of crystals. That's something you want to check out because it's a very similar technique where you're actually looking, you're looking deep into this crystal. It's different because you're not looking around the crystal. When you're looking at auras, you're actually usually looking around. Make sure you check out my video on that, link below. When you're scrying, you're actually looking into the crystal, and you're really letting your eyes just completely unfocus. Be careful because I don't want you to hurt your eyes. You don't want to do it for too long. Like I said, just a couple minutes. Or if your eyes start to hurt at all, stop, okay? Because I don't want you to hurt your eyes. You can strain yourself. I did this one time, not with scrying, but with doing auras, and I hurt my eyes for like a week. They hurt. So you can definitely damage your eyes. You don't want to do that. All right, so you just look gently and let it happen gently. So just stare into your ball. And what you might eventually start to see is you might just start have images. Now, you might actually see it with your physical eyes. You might actually see like a puff of smoke or like energy, zigzaggy type of energy. You might actually start to see that. And then once that happens, that's usually the precursor that you're going to have something further, like an image or something like that. You might actually start to see like an image of whatever, some kind of, might be like a video clip, or it might just be quick images. Don't stop at that point. Don't stop and try to interpret it. Just let it play out, and then go back and write it all down, what you saw or how you felt. Now, I don't always see images. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Or sometimes it's a combination. So you start to get like this weird thing where like the energy's moving. You can see the energy. You might start to get hot and tingly. You might even start to vibrate. You might even feel that the crystal's vibrating. You might even feel, like an electricity or something along those lines. Or you might feel bugs on your head, crown chakras opening or throbbing on your third eye. You might have all these things happening. You're becoming in tune with the crystal. You're being able to connect with that crystal, That's when you want to keep going. It's hard because you get really excited. You're like, oh, I'm vibrating, It's like when you're astral projecting and you start to vibrate and you get all excited, and then you stop, and you come right out of it because you get all excited, It's kind of like premature astral projection, I call it. The same thing here. You get really excited and sometimes you just pop right out and you lose that. So try not to get excited. I know it's hard. And so you might start to see images. You may not see images. You may actually, it depends if you're clairvoyant. If you're clairvoyant, you might see those images. If you're more clairsentient, you might start to feel things. So you'd be looking in the ball, and you might not really see anything in the ball, but you might actually smell something. You might smell cigar smoke from your grandfather, or you might have a sudden knowing or whatever. So other things could happen besides just looking in the ball and getting an image. So I know that from experience, that there's extra, sensory kinds of things that could happen. It's not just clairvoyancy. So be prepared for other sensations. Taste, you might all of a sudden have a certain taste in your mouth. Smell, knowing, might get hot, it might get cold. You might feel like tingles, sensations, and all kinds of things can happen. So be prepared for any kind of weird stuff like that. And that's basically how I do it. That's basically how I scry. It's not something that I do on a regular basis. It's usually something I do out of accident, when I'm just kind of in the zone or something, or I might just happen to look down and then start like staring at my ball. And it usually happens after I've done readings or I've meditated, because I'm very in that, in that place. It's really hard to just sit down and scry. It's kind of hard. It's like, you got to go run in that 5K, and you decide you're going to get up and start running the 5K, and you can only like run a couple minutes worth. You got to work up to it and get used to it until you get really good at it, and then you can just bam, get in that place. So a lot of meditation really helps you too with scrying. So I'm just checking my notes to see if I missed anything. Oh, I did. Okay, so shifting your consciousness. Another thing that I do, and I actually never thought of it as scrying before, but it could be considered scrying, is I can actually shift my consciousness into a crystal and see what's going on inside that crystal. I don't know if it actually falls into the category of scrying, but I think it intertwines. It can intertwine. So another way of doing this, if you have a crystal ball or something, is to imagine, your consciousness going into it so that you can actually see inside to see what's going on and feel what's going on. And that's actually what I do when I do crystal readings in my Facebook group. I shift my consciousness into the crystal. At least that's what I think I'm doing, and so that I can see what's going on with that crystal and that person and how they connect somehow. And I think that's it. The interpretation of what you see is up to you. If you see whatever kind of images, you might see a bird, you might see a flower, you might see a cross and, skull bones or whatever. I don't know. You might see all kinds of things, or hear things or smell things or whatever. The interpretation is going to be really very individual for you, or if you're doing it for a client or another person, you're going to have to work that out between you two. So the interpretations can be so varied. Just be really careful, please, when you're doing this. Again, use protection beforehand. Also, afterwards, you want to make sure you clear yourself of that connection that you made. And, you want to definitely make sure that you're cutting those cords or clearing that you don't want to be connected anymore at that point. So this is just an introductory video. There's a lot more information out there. If you really, really are interested in scrying, I would recommend you do more research, and take your time with this, because it's a technique that can be very useful. But I just want you to have precaution when you're doing it. I want you to practice safe spirituality and safe, psychic stuff. All right? Be safe. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope you found this useful. I love you. Let me know in the comments below how you scry, or if you've ever had any experiences with scrying. I'd love to hear from you. And, as always, have a blessed day. Bye, guys.